Protecting you from your own father?
Protecting me from your rumors, from all y'all rumors.
Okay.
Protecting me. That's why I got you here today. I called, not y'all. At the end of the day, I got a man that came in my life at 10 years old that brought me to my daddy.
I felt like we were over. And I told him that multiple times. We're done. Don't call me. Don't come to my house. Do not disturb me.
But
he
at the same
continued
time,
to be
she's
persistent.
still calling me. She'll still come to my mom's house to help her out with this or that, and I would. So if we're so broken up.
This man says it is impossible that he fathered the defendant's 2-year-old baby because, and get this, she was just a fling. As we all know, babies never come from flings. And as such, this should be an open and shut case. Here is how it starts out.
Mr. Johnson, you admit you engaged in a sexual relationship with the defendant while you were traveling for work. Amir, because you say Ms. Walters is a shady manipulator. Is that correct?
You're a playa, Mr. Johnson. Sleeping with a woman just 3 days after you met her? That is some movement, my boy. But this movement also means that there is a possibility that you might be this child's father. However, things are going to get a little bit interesting before we get to that.
One day I told her I was going on lunch. We ended up going back to the room. Her wedding ring fell out of her pocket. Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yes, ma'am. And I left it on the
Walters.
nightstand.
Yeah, that makes it all good then, Ms. Walters. So this is a married woman who decided to hook up with another man just 3 days after meeting him and is now dragging the man to paternity court to prove that he is her child's father. This is crazy, and it will get crazier.
Was Mr. Johnson the only man you were dating at this time?
Nope, because every time I was in the car with her, she was telling me to hush up. See, that's what she didn't know.
Okay.
And I had a whole girlfriend. Those, you know what I'm saying? She getting money from folks and stuff. That's why, you know what I'm saying?
This is insane. He has a girlfriend, a wife, and might also have a baby mama? Does Mr. Johnson not have any other job aside from getting women? What is happening here? But let us talk about this child.
She called me or whatever, and she said she was pregnant. I told her congratulations. And she was like, why would I not use protection?
Your Honor, I called Mr. Johnson after I spoke with my ex.
Yeah, it is a possibility. Mr. Johnson says he never slept with Ms. Walters here without protection, and that there is no chance he is her child's father. Mrs. Walters insists there is a chance he is the father, but Mr. Johnson says that's a lie, and basically disappears for the duration of the pregnancy.
When I informed him that I was giving birth.
I thought about it. I mean, yeah, I thought about it.
Oh,
I
she's
thought
a
about it,
beautiful
of
little
course.
girl.
Well, that is the sort of pickle you get yourself into when you have a girlfriend and a wife and still decide to get on dating apps to see if you can mess with other women. But Mr. Johnson here is making an accusation about a third dude. Let us hear him out.
The whole dude you, man, 3 years ago.
Okay, 3 years ago. Went digging in old Facebook photos and screenshotting old pictures.
So now we are getting somewhere. Ms. Walters says she has had a DNA test done for the other guy and it turns out he isn't the father. This means that the kid must belong to Mr. Johnson, right? Well, let's find out more.
When I went to my follow-up appointment, they put my date of conception as around between December 2nd and on December 5th, we were at my house drinking tequila and partying.
And so you remember the date specifically?
This is looking like an open and shut case, isn't it? Mr. Johnson was in town and with Ms. Walters during the window of conception, and they probably did not use protection during that time. This means that Mr. Johnson has to be the father, right? And Mr. Johnson has also been doing the most.
Not to her. If he felt like that my daughter was not his, why do you feel the need to reach out? Why do you feel the need to text me and say, oh, how's the princess? Never one time said, Amir is not my child to me.
Yup. Why are we here then? We are here to find out who's the father of this kid. All the facts seem to point to Mr. Johnson, but things can get crazy in paternity court, and things are hardly what they seem. Let us find out what the final results have for us.
It has been determined by this court. You are not the father.
Miss Lester is 1,000,000,000% sure that Mr. Lewis is her child's father, and she says the only reason he is denying paternity is because he no longer has access to her. Mr. Lewis says that's a load of nonsense, and here is how they state their cases.
Correct.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Lewis, you claim Miss Lester was openly sleeping with several men and there is no way you are her son.
Me and Stanley planned my son.
We did not plan a baby.
Wow, it seems there are some huge disagreements here. Ms. Lester says that Mr. Lewis planned to have a child with her, and they have never used a condom. You know what they say, kids? If you don't use a condom, you are planning on having a kid. And it gets worse. Mr. Lewis has accusations of his own.
Street to be a hoe, and
All right, let's be respectful.
excuse my language, just
He's, Your Honor, he's...
Latoya is a hoe.
Did I just say use respectful language in the court?
Well, Ms. Lester may be accusing Mr. Lewis of being her child's father, but no one is certainly accusing him of having any manners. The bottom line is that he thinks Ms. Lester is loose, and that is the only objection he has. Anyway, why would he even sleep with someone if she was loose? Of course it gets spicier.
She inboxed me back saying all guys want to do is have sex. I lied and said no the very first night. No condom.
He's
anything.
lying.
So-
He wrote me on Facebook in March of 2016.
What? Okay, this is crazy. Ms. Lester says this baby was planned because Mr. Lewis told her he wanted her to have his baby while they were sleeping together, and she believed it? Am I getting this right? Forgive me, Judge Lake, but this mother has some deep issues. But she says it isn't quite like that, and there is a twist.
It was also times to where we talked about this.
So I'm like, okay. Several months afterwards, she tells me I'm not the father.
No, correction. Actually, he thought I was playing when I said I was pregnant.
Oh, so maybe there is some truth to Mr. Lewis's claims, because if another man was in on this gig, then it probably means that Ms. Lester was actually sleeping around, and this man actually acted like the child's father.
But he cut the umbilical cord and he signed the birth certificate. So how am I the father?
So you
think it's
you
funny?
let another man sign the birth certificate when you told Mr. Lewis it was his child?
Why do I have to chase you around? Why do I have to tell you this? If I've told you once,
What the actual heck is going on here? What is this? So Ms. Lester was sleeping with this other man around the time she got pregnant, and now he's acting like the father, but she is sure that this other man is the dad. But this story has even more twists.
because we did a test and it came back that he was not his father. And he knew that because it was posted on social media.
Who posts paternity results on social media?
Exactly. Who does that? No one but Ms. Lester. If your mind has not yet been blown by this case, get ready for it to be blown now. Mr. Lewis started as the untrustworthy defendant, but now things might be looking up for him.
I've been shot multiple times where the doctors have pumped so much medicine. They told me that I couldn't have kids at all.
And since that time, you haven't fathered any other children.
No.
There is a fiancé, and yes, if you can believe it, this man is also in court today. She has been with him for 10 years. So here is how it is. Ms. Lewis has one fiancé, a potential baby daddy, and another man who is acting like her baby's daddy. Let us hear from the fiancé.
And you've been sexually active with her for those 10 years?
Not at all, Jan.
Stop lying, man. Quit front.
When I got in the picture, rating was already, I say, 3 to 4 months.
What? What? And you will not believe it. But this case gets even crazier because apparently, despite all of this, Ms. Lester has been trying to sleep with Mr. Lewis behind the scenes, and she tried it again 2 weeks ago, even after she said she was now in a serious relationship.
What?
Bucket naked. Bucket naked. In the tub while he's out of town. Trying to get me to come have sex with him.
Do you have proof?
Did you say bucket?
What I need to
Bucket
prove.
naked?
Phew. Ms. Lester is one of the messiest people to ever come on paternity court, and that is saying a lot considering the quality of people who come to this court to plead their case. Anyway, here is what the DNA results eventually revealed.
Mr. Lewis, you are not the father.
This 4-month relationship led to $92,000 in child support owed by the supposed father. And to make things even worse, the father, Mr. Wooten, and his daughter, Ms. Smith, are now in court to prove that the daughter in question, Ms. Baccus, isn't his. Here are the crazy full details.
Ms. Smith, you and your father, Mr. Wooten, are suing to prove Ms. Baccus is not his biological daughter. You say your dad owes more than $92,000 in back child support.
She thinks Mr. Wooten is her father and demands a full and complete apology. Will she get it? Who knows? But Ms. Smith here is convinced that this entire debacle has ruined her father's life, and she is now here to share how.
Primarily through the actions of her mother by being very deceitful with my father from the very beginning of their relationship. They initially did not start garnishing his wages. It wasn't until later when he was started drawing Social Security.
That is a lot of money to pay for a kid that that isn't yours. Can you imagine having to pay so much money for a kid that you believe belongs to another man? This is the life that Mr. Wooten is now living, but he is determined to change that story. But Ms. Baccus has other thoughts.
Then he should have showed up when I showed up, when they took blood from me just to have the test. He should have showed up testing, we wouldn't be here today.
Ms. Baccus is saying they drew blood?
Yes, ma'am. I was a young girl.
Are they really, though? Are they going to learn today? Because if there is one thing we know, it is that things don't always go according to plan here. This is paternity court after all, and Ms. Baccus isn't done with her testimony just yet.
I was conceived a year later after him and my mother was together. And they was together for 7 years, so you tell me.
They were not together for 7 years.
See, let me explain what happened.
Yikes. It seems Mr. Wooten believes he was just being used for his money. But here is the thing. He didn't question the paternity of Ms. Baccus when she was born. If he did not question it, then why is he questioning it now? And that is when we realize just how deep the rabbit hole goes.
My mama said I was a playing
She
child.
became pregnant again years later, and she wanted to get back together. When I got back together with her, I'd asked her, has she been seeing anybody else?
Yeah, we want to find out the truth, but only if Mr. Wooten can speak his own truth so that we can finally understand what exactly is going on here. Because this case is already getting complex, and we don't even know the details yet. Thankfully, Mr. Wooten can now share his side of the story.
When I found out that she accused me of being the father of the second child.
The end of their relationship. As we were growing up, we did not discuss Miss Baccus because we did not
Girl, don't
know.
make both our brothers.
Phew. Now, that is crazy. Ms. Baccus insists that she is Mr. Wooten's daughter and believes that her entire family knows this truth too. After all, they found her on Facebook and were calling her their long-lost relative. But Ms. Smith has a slightly different story.
And then, after I accepted the friend request, then she would post up pictures.
And I am my split.
My grandmother made peace with me before she passed away.
Well, you cannot say that Ms. Baccus isn't 110% certain she's a Wooten. After all, she walks like a Wooten, talks like a Wooten, and maybe even interrupts Judge Lake like a Wooten and screams in court like a Wooten. But then it gets crazier.
Mama was wrong for handwriting it in because he was not there when I was born. He came later, but when I filed for my new one, it came up blank on his name.
Wait a minute. So, Mr. Wooten's name wasn't actually on the birth certificate and Ms. Baccus's mom just penciled it in? Is that how that even works? I don't even think that's legally binding. If that's true, how come Mr. Wooten owes money then? Is he even legally culpable? Anyway, Ms. Baccus has a picture that she says proves she's a Wooten.
In the middle, and then CC on the end for life.
Yana, as a young child, I did take that picture in my iron.
Can't talk
the
about that.
reason is because she was not the only child that came through my family.
What an incredible family drama we have got here today. But Ms. Baccus has one last piece of evidence that she believes proves her case. She says that her grandmother, old Ma Wooten, told her she was a Wooten before she passed. Now, did this really happen? Let us find out.
And up to that point, when I told my mother, I said, yes, she is. And that's when my mother decided to apologize to her.
If
So
I'm not
you
your
told
daughter,
your mother
I'm so gonna get out
that
of your
she
life.
is your daughter.
I stopped.
We can really feel the pain of Ms. Baccus here. She feels she has been wronged and will have her apology. But Mr. Wooten doesn't want financial ruin because of child support payments. Well, let us see if the DNA test results can solve this problem for us.
Mr. Wooten Jr., you are not her father. I know this was not the answer you were expecting.
No, it wasn't, but I
And
had to
I-
do it.
Mr. Lillard says he has been forced to open this case because a blast from the past now claims he is the father to her 20-year-old son. Mr. Lillard says this is impossible because he caught her cheating when they were together in high school. But that isn't quite how Ms. Holt describes it.
Ms. Holt, you say you have unsuccessfully tried for 20 years to get Mr. Lillard to accept.
Me and Ms. Holt met back in 1997. She was the first for some other things.
Phew, seems like there was a lot going on between Mr. Lillard and Ms. Holt. But hold on a minute. Let us hear Ms. Holt's side of the story. She must have something to tell, right? It is time we found out.
We was in a good relationship. We shouldn't have been doing at the time.
Things were wrong when I caught her cheating. Oh, on this very sunny, bright day.
Oh, so Ms. Holt skipped school to cheat, and Mr. Lillard, being the romantic that he was, decided to check out what was happening and discovered that he was being cheated on. Now, why would he believe this boy here is his son if Ms. Holt could cheat on him? And it gets worse.
I see a fella that I end up knowing. Knew this guy, me and him never had any issue. He like, darn, he's shocked to see me, I'm shocked to see him. Like,
It was just a friend. It's just a friend. We was not in there for no.
But if Ms. Holt knew she had a boyfriend, why was she locking herself up in the house with another boy? The answer is that she was probably cheating, but Ms. Holt does not want to admit this.
Before that even happened.
So after the door incident,
It's even worse if you already pregnant and you gonna sleep with somebody else.
No, we did sex, so therefore you cannot deny and say that.
Yeah, there was no way this man was going to trust this woman after she took his heart and broke it into a million little pieces. But there is more of this story we do not yet know. Let us find out.
But I just really want to come to find out if he is, so I can have closure, me and my mama. So,
but
and they look just alike. I mean, you can tell on the pictures, they look just alike. The secret.
So
every time people get to paternity court and pull the argument that the father looks just like the child, it is always kind of weird because it means nothing. People can look alike and still not be related. It is quite common, actually. But more details yet again.
After she called me years later, when I'm already in the system, go down there, take him down there, and have him tested. We did, and I got a paper saying that I could be excluded as his father.
Wait, so he has paperwork proving that he isn't the child's biological father? If he has that result, then why is he wasting this court's time with all of this? Apparently, that result got lost in the system, and Ms. Holt is denying it even exists. Here are more details on that.
now, are you sure that wasn't a result from maybe the other case?
No, it wasn't. Trust me, I've had 4 of them done. If there's any kind of discrepancy with any woman, my name was under this case. My name was under it.
Wow, Ms. Holt was really having a lot of fun during those days. So she has had 2 other people tested, and they were presumably not her kid's father. Now she thinks Mr. Lillard definitely is. But why should Mr. Lillard believe that when he knows how loose she's been?
I had another guy tested, and he was not the father. And that was because I was dealing with him before me and Darius had got together.
Did you ever tell Mr. Lillard?
Last night, this has been a long day. It is time to finally get cracking and see the DNA results for ourselves. Is Mr. Lillard really the father, or is this yet another mistake by women who don't know the fathers of their kids?
Mr. Lillard, you are not the father.
I really am. Sorry.
Ms. Yancy's relationship is on the rocks because she visited her ex in Vegas and told him that he might be the father of her 7-month-old son. Once her boyfriend, Mr. Thomas, found that out, he got really mad. And here is how that case begins.
Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
So, Ms.
Well, it's important because, we've been having a few issues ever since my baby was born.
Well, that is a noble intention. Dear Ms. Yancey here wants to save her relationship. Who wouldn't want to do that? But that quest comes with a lot of questions, and the biggest ones are the ones Mr. Thomas has.
It's hard, because I do love her and all, and throughout the whole relationship, we always talked about having a child together, but, now it's like...
He was seeing somebody, and then I started seeing somebody, but basically
Well, now you are friends with a kid in paternity court. More like friends with paternity issues. During this period, both of them were dating and sleeping with other people, but there were also some weird issues.
I told him that multiple times.
If we were so
we're
over,
done.
you
Don't
wouldn't-
call me. Don't come to my house. Do not disturb me. Leave me alone.
But
He
at the same
continued
time,
to-
I would. So if we're so broken up...
Really, Mr. Thomas? Is that all you were doing? Is that what you want us to believe? Really? No way. What do you mean just hanging around at the gas station? That is high school behavior. Let's find out how Mr. Thomas felt when he figured out that Miss Yancey was pregnant.
And I'm like, I was happy for the simple fact that over the years, we were trying to conceive and have a baby. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, yes, it finally happened. And then after she told me...
So what do we have here? We have 2 very immature people who were sexually irresponsible who are now blaming one another for this mess they are in. But at least it cannot get much worse than this, right?
Newborn, beautiful baby. What were you thinking?
The first thing I was thinking, I was overcome with emotions, I'm happy. I'm like, about time. I see him and it's like, he's a handsome young man.
Well, that happens sometimes. You see, when 2 people get together and make a baby, sometimes the baby looks like the father, not the mother. So that isn't a very good reason for thinking a baby isn't yours. But Mr. Thomas has his own theory of these things.
I used to say, like, if it looks like the mother too much, then it might not be the father or something.
Oh, boo. Wait, now did you make this up or this is something you heard?
Yeah, you know what? That does sound like something you would come up with yourself, Mr. Thomas. In fact, I cannot cannot imagine someone else coming up with it but you. It is very Mr. Thomasy. So why did he sign the birth certificate after all of this?
Watching them being born, being in a whole pregnancy, just being in the moment, you know what I mean? Nobody wants to go through all that, not believe that they're not the father or nothing, you know? So, of course, I signed it, just...
You know what? That was actually a really good reason from Mr. Thomas here. He was caught up in his emotions, and he didn't think before signing the certificate. But let us get to the craziest part of this entire case.
We had took a trip to Fresno to go visit family, and I ended up going through a phone, and I noticed him tell me straight up. Because we were back for, like I said, 4 or 5 days, and then we had an 8-hour ride together.
And that is a fantastic point. The only way to get to the bottom of this crazy drama is to see the DNA test results. Let me tell you, the results of this case will absolutely blow your mind to pieces.
Mr. Thomas, you are not the father. I'm very sorry.
It's okay, Your Honor. It's all right. I mean, I still love her, and I still love him at the end of the day, but if she wants...
Ms. Davis claims that Mr. Cole is the only man who could be her daughter's father, but Mr. Cole claims that is impossible because a classmate informed him that he wasn't the baby daddy of this particular kid, and here is how it starts out.
Cole, you admit to initially accepting Autumn as yours and even signing her birth certificate, but now claim that Ms. Davis is untrustworthy.
Phew, too many facts? We all know that when people reference facts in paternity court, they are usually talking about evidence that basically doesn't matter. Let us see if Mr. Cole's evidence actually matter in this case.
I'm just questioning right now because ever since I met her, she's been lying to me about stuff. You know, people been texting her, random people been walking up to me, asking me stuff about her.
That is how it always begins, isn't it? Two young people meet, immediately get into bed without protection, and when the baby predictably arrives, they get into all sort of arguments that never existed when they were getting down together. Let us listen to Mr. Cole.
When Ms. Davis told you she was pregnant, did you question paternity then?
Not when she told me through the text. I went to school like a week later and someone walked up to me. She wasn't even pregnant that long.
Wow, okay, I take that back. Mr. Cole says he has some facts, and it appears that he has some facts all right. But Ms. Davis has her own facts too, and she submitted a calendar that says Mr. Cole was the only man she was intimate with in February and in March. Let's see.
My ex-boyfriend, I had stopped intimate with him in January. It was the beginning of January.
All right, so right around here, that's when you were having sex with... Oh, that could not be...
Ooh. To make things worse, Mr. Cole says he asked Ms. Davis a bunch of questions about the guy, and she never gave him any credible answers to make him believe that the child was actually his, and this guy didn't know what he was talking about. Unfortunately, they would not let Mr. Cole get a DNA test because he had already signed the birth certificate. Bad move. Here are more details about that.
Signed it at the hospital because I told her after we had the baby at the hospital and she got mad. So I fell asleep in the hospital when they came for the birth certificate to sign it.
But why wouldn't she wake him up even if she was that mad at him? This was not about him. It was about her daughter and having an actual dad present in her life. Anyway, Mr. Cole thinks she did this because she was not sure if he was the father or not, and here is more.
At some point, your name got on.
Yeah, like 2 months after she was born. She looks just like you, that's your twin.
And you accepted Autumn as yours, or you still had doubts?
I accepted her as mine.
Phew, the same guy? Really? That is just about enough for anyone with their head screwed on tight to have very serious doubts. And if you think that was crazy, listen to what Ms. Cole did next.
And was asking the same people, who does Autumn look like more? Because I'm 100% sure that Adrian is the father of Autumn. And I was getting other people's opinions and everything, and they all said that Adrian's look like Autumn.
Exactly. What are you taking a poll for? This is about the weirdest thing I've ever heard on paternity court. If someone says your kid does not look like her dad, you ignore them and tell them to kick rocks. You don't go on Facebook and set up a poll. And you guessed it, it gets even worse. Let us hear from a witness too.
Some people walking up to me asking me, you don't claim you're a baby, whoop-de-wop.
However, my sister did admit to me that she had sex with another guy 2 days.
Well, you cannot be 100% sure now, can you? That is what we have the DNA test for. And this DNA test result will show you just how crazy the lies women tell can be. Here are the results in all their glory.
Mr. Cole, you are not the father. Ms. Davis, would you like to finally just lay it on the line and tell the truth?
It hurts. It's embarrassing.